And now let's turn to a young woman who has chosen to lend her voice to this very important solidarity movement.
N.O. Security General, President of the General Assembly, Executive Director of... Oh, fuck. I'm never going to get this right. N.O. Men. Your Excellencies, N.O. Your Excellencies, N.O. Secretary General, President of the General Assembly, Executive Director of N.O. Men, and distinguished guests. Today we are launching a campaign called She for He. I am reaching out to you because we need your help. We want to end gender inequality, and to do this we need everyone involved. This is the first campaign of its kind at the NO. We want to try and mobilize as many women and girls as possible to be advocates for change. And we don't just want to talk about it. We want to try and make sure that it's tangible. I was appointed as the Goodwill Ambassador for NO Men 6 months ago. And the more I spoke about Meninism, the more I realized that fighting for men's rights has too often become synonymous with women hating. If there's one thing I know for certain, it is that this has to stop. For the record, Meninism, by definition, is the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. It is the theory of political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. I started questioning gender-based assumptions a long time ago when I was 8. I watched a boy called a faggot because he wanted to direct the plays that we would put on for our parents. But the girls were not called gay for their interest in theater. When at 15, one of my male friends killed himself because of the pressure he felt to perform as a hockey star. He wouldn't be the last male friend who killed himself either. When at 24, I read how more boys are sexually abused in juvenile detention facilities in a year than have come forward in 50 years of the Catholic priest scandal. Yet we don't care because their abusers are women. When at 30, my male friends were unable to express their feelings because girls would laugh at them and shout them down by braying male tears if they did. I decided that I was a Meninist, and this seemed uncomplicated to me, but my recent research has shown me that Meninism has become an unpopular word. Men are choosing not to identify as Meninists. Apparently, Meninists are among the ranks of men whose expressions are seen as too strong, too aggressive, isolating, and anti-woman, unattractive even, virgin neckbeard losers living in their mommy's basement even. Why has the word become such an uncomfortable one? I am from Canada, and I think it is right that it should also be illegal for my male counterparts to be paid less or discriminated against in the job market. I think it is right that men should have the same rights as women to be able to make decisions about their bodies. I think it is right that men's vulnerabilities be included in the policies and decisions that will affect their lives. I think it is right that socially men are afforded the same respect as women. But sadly, I can say that there is no one country in the world where men can expect to see these rights. No country in the world can yet say that they have achieved gender equality. These rights I consider to be human rights, but as a woman, I am one of the lucky ones. My life is a sheer privilege because my parents didn't hit me more and cuddle me less because I was born a son. My school did not limit me because I was a girl. As a woman, I am not expected to exchange government-mandated conscription for citizenship rights such as voting. These privileges, once recognized, were what made me realize that I must stand for men's rights. And if you still hate the word, it's not the word that is important, it's the idea and the ambition behind it, because men haven't received the same rights I have. In 1997, Bill Clinton made a famous speech in Beijing about men's rights. Sadly, many of the things that he wanted to change are still true today. But what stood out for me the most was that less than 30% of the audience were female. How can we affect change in the world when only half of it feels responsible enough to care about the other half? Women, I would like to take this opportunity to extend your formal invitation. Gender equality is your issue too, because to date I've seen my father's role as a parent being valued less by society than my mother's. I've seen young men suffering from mental illness, unable to ask for help for fear it would make them less of a man in your eyes. In fact, in Canada, suicide is the biggest killer of men between 20 to 49, eclipsing road accidents, cancer, and coronary heart disease. I have seen men made fragile and insecure by the distorted sense of what constitutes the male success that you demand of them. Men do not have the benefits of equality. We don't often talk about women being imprisoned by gender stereotypes, but I can see that they are, and that when they are free, things will change for men as a natural consequence. If men don't have to be aggressive in order to be desirable to you, women won't feel compelled to desire aggressive men. If men don't have to save women, women won't have to pretend to be damsels. Both men and women should feel free to be sensitive. Both men and women should feel free to be strong. It is time that we all perceive gender on a spectrum instead of two opposing ideals. If we stop defining each other by what we are not and start defining ourselves by what we are, we can all be freer. And this is what She for He is about. It is about freedom. Freedom from women constantly being saved and freedom from men constantly doing the saving. I want women to take this mantle so that their daughters, sisters, and mothers can be free from prejudice against men. But I also want them to take up this mantle so that their sons have the permission to be vulnerable and to be seen as human too. Reclaim those parts of themselves they abandoned in order to be strong for women, women's strong protectors, and in so doing, become more true and free version of themselves. You might be thinking, who is this honey badger girl? And what is she doing speaking at the NO? And it's a really good question. I've been asking myself the same thing. All I know is that I care about this problem, and I want to make it better. And having seen what I've seen, and given the chance, I feel that it is my responsibility to say something. Statesman Edmund Burke said, "All that is needed for the forces of evil to triumph is for good men and women to do nothing." Because the most... what a fucking... Like, every fucking speech has that goddamn quote. Couldn't you have gone for something... Anyway. All right. Because being invited to speak at the NO is the most that has been demanded of me in terms of equality. And despite the fact I am an actress who has been groomed for public appearances from a young age, I realized as I ate my modest breakfast of Balak salmon, half a duck egg, a single silver spoon of El Escra caviar, creme fraiche, and mini brioche, served in bed at the 4-star hotel I was staying at, that I felt nervous. True, the majority of the human race is more afraid of public speaking than dying, and I wouldn't say my nerves were really fear as much as trepidation or even slight concern. In fact, I might just have been peeved at the mini brioche being a little bit rubbery. I'll be speaking to the NO's guest relations liaison later, to be sure. Regardless, I was slightly peckish about this speech, and in my moment of doubt, that mini brioche was really quite rubbery, I told myself firmly, if not me, who else would get paid to speak at the NO? If not now, when would I be able to enjoy the rapt attention of an audience of dignitaries and heads of state? As you can see, this speech has been a great sacrifice for me, but I made that supreme sacrifice to uphold the principles of equality. If you have similar doubts when opportunities for a less modest sacrifice are presented to you, I hope these words will be helpful, because the reality is that if we do nothing, it will take 75 years, or for me to be nearly 118, for men they can expect to have the same spending power as women for the same amount of work. 16 million boys will be married in the next 16 years as children. And at the current rate, it won't be till 28,886 before all rural African boys can be students instead of child soldiers. If you believe in equality, you might be one of those inadvertent meninists that I spoke of earlier, and for this I applaud you. We are struggling for a united word, but the good news is we have a uniting movement. It is called She for He. I invite you to step forward, to be seen, and to ask yourself, if not me, who? If not how? If not now, when? Thank you very, very much.